The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the best preserved of only 4 remaining circular churches in England. Built by returning Crusaders on the model of Jerusalem's Holy Sepulchre Church, it was begun in 1100 by Simon de St. Liz, the first Norman Earl of Northampton, probably in thanks for the success of the First Crusade and his own safe return. It originally consisted only of the circular nave and a small chancel. A north chapel was added around 1200 and the tower in the 15th century. The round dowsed as a lay centre, with rod spin in the middle and several leys crossing when circling. Leys through several places visited later were found on the map. One went through Spinney Hill, Holy Sepulchre Church, St. Peter's Church, Northampton, skirted the west edge of Hunsbury Hillfort, a small pond in Gayton, Whitfield Church, a fish pond and coincident track at Astwick Vanished Village, and a tumulus near Round Hill Farm south of Crofton. Another one went through Sywell Church, Kingsley Park Church, Holy Sepulchre, the Doddridge Chapel and the castle site, a mean following road at Banbury Lane, a crossroads and tracks at Eastcote, coincident road and church at Weedon Lowes. A third one went through a tumulus at Boughton that we visited, the Roman Catholic Cathedral, Holy Sepulchre Church, All Saints Church, Corton Hall Church, a junction and a county boundary and a river at Watling Street, and another county boundary just to the south. A fourth one went through a church at Kingsthorpe, Holy Sepulchre Church, the building at Delaprey Abbey, Hardingstone Church, which has got several other leys found to be going through it, and a main multi-junction on the A5 at Milton Keynes. Here there was a statue of a king with apparently foliage above it. And St. George and the Dragon. The Gothic splendour of Northampton's Guildhall.
Not quite the same, but
same lines. Beautiful windows. But we all thought you would enjoy this. You've got Charles first. Doddridge. Yes, the Doddridge Church. I like those merchant things like this.
78 Derngate, a house remodelled by Scottish architect Charles Rennie Mackintosh.
Well, that's what we are, I suppose. My name is Peter Mackintosh. I guess that explains why I'm slightly interested in Charles Rennie, but as far as I know, he's no relation.
That's purely coincidence.
Purely coincidence, but of course the name makes you read things and listen to things, so it's developed from there. Of course, I'm from Scotland originally, and I've been living in Northampton for almost 30 years. Well, not in the town, but in the villages. And it was a real surprise to me to discover that Charles Rennie had actually done something here in Northampton, so that was a nice discovery for me. But since we got together, which was about a year, 18 months ago now, formed the Friends, of course the interest grows. Once you start reading the books and picking up some of the anecdotes, you realise there's a lot to discover here. Not just about this place, but about the people as well, the relationships between them. Anyway, rather than stand out in the cold air, this street here was built about 1815. It was called Waterloo originally, for obvious reasons. And the last house there, 82, which is the next door one, was the last house in Northampton in this direction at that time. The plan that we've got here, showing this model, this big L-shaped one is number 82, and is part of our plan that 82 will be brought into the scheme. Much bigger property, and there's space there for exhibitions and seminars and meeting rooms and stuff like that. But this phase, we're only dealing with number 80, this room, this building here, and 78 next door. It's relatively small, and you'll understand when you go through that you couldn't have masses and masses of people going through there in the continuous basis. So Mackintosh were many I imagine, because Mackintosh was quite a character, quite a strong-minded person, and of course he was a designer, he would know what he wanted. But particularly they wanted this house to become as spacious as possible, as light and airy as possible, and to use the space to the best advantage. He also had to put a bathroom in, so that was an obvious benefit that would be added. I guess the rooms had to be rearranged to accommodate that. The first thing you see is this extension here. This was put on as part of the design. We let a lot more light into this front room and give it a bit more space as well. The other outside detail, of course, is the front door. And you've seen pictures of that, I'm sure, many a time. This is not the original door. I would be sticking drawing pins in the original door. It was vandalised about 3 years ago. It's okay, it can be repaired, but it's in safekeeping in another part of town, in the museum. But you can see it's typical Mackintosh over the top here, and the stepping function, you'll see again on the kitchen, on the fireplace, is reminiscent of the west floor of the Glasgow School of Art. It's the same sort of design pattern. There's another story, another person comes into the story a little bit here. Further along the street, another architect, Luke, called... Perhaps we can go inside, and we'll go through to the back room. Even once the other folks have cleared out, so we'll do that later. We've skipped through the lounge hall, which was the one we've just been in. Now this is the dining room. And the first thing I usually say here is have a little look at, there was a picture next door, but I think it's quite important just to get the spatial awareness here. My book has a picture which is taken from the garden outside there, and you've seen this picture. It occurs in all the books on the subject, but it gives you the impression of this extension piece that's been pushed out at the back of this house and the whole height of the house. And where we're standing here is a line of the old wall at the back of the terraced house. So this piece is the extension, and that occurs all the way through the building. So another part of the instruction that Mackintosh had was to make this place more spacious. Not only that, but between log straps, and all these fittings are original and Mackintosh ideas. Sorry? The tiling is original, yes, and this is design. I think that this is a bought-in part.
1916 or...
Yes, all of this was back in 1916, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we can see that this is typical Mackintosh, and this actually hinges up. It's broken at the moment, you can't do it, but to change the bulb, you sort of swing it out like this. So he's practical as well. There are even little touches here. You can see we've been shot straight down into the cobble there, and there's a pantry down this side, but there's nothing special about that. But this is the kitchen, and the first thing to say is this screen was not there. This has been added later, so forget all it. You can imagine that not being present. The floor area really continues on. You can see where the tiles have been covered by this wall, which is built the wall on top of the tiles. The tiles are original, not only in the floor but in the wall as well, which has been painted over. You can see the outline, you can see the lines in the tiles. They're white tiles, and there's a black line of tiles all the way around the room to a little later than the original, but it's back at Bassett Loke's time. It would have been installed in his time. And there is a suggestion of this quotation here, which is Old French apparently, and it's something like "Que sera, sera" kind of message.
So do you see come what may?
Yes, it's something, that's right.
Yeah.
We've had various interpretations on, and that's quite a strong suggestion, that one. Others have said, well, the example I was given was, if there's a cook down here making a cake, she can follow the recipe to the letter, so that's do everything properly. But then once it goes into the oven to be cooked, she's sort of trusting to luck a little bit. Now, originally this room was rather dark. There was a matte black ceiling. The walls were fundamentally black. There was a black ebony floor here with a carpet on it. The carpet was sort of grey and black checkerboard, you can see on the picture here. But predominantly black. And even the screen was black, matte black. So you can imagine these lit panels would have really been let out, especially in night time. And of course in daytime, when the lights would be on, just close switch here, then these glass panels are letting light into the stairwell as well. So there's a two-way traffic on light, and this theme continues up through the building. So this is pretty dramatic, and this is original. Not the original paint necessarily, but the glass is original. It survived all these intervening occupiers. The School of Art is here again. It has been rearranged. If you look at the picture there, you can see there's a cutout here. It's somehow been remodeled. But principally it was books over here. I think there may be another shelf above. And that's where the bust of George Bernard Shaw would have stood, because they were great pals, certainly. Mackintosh is using the space again. He's got cupboards everywhere. Little nooks and crannies and places for flowers. We can have flowers over here. There's even cupboards down the side here. There's little nooks in the screen itself. One of the cabinets in here was a smoker's cabinet, so-called, and maybe these were for tobacco tins. And the lady miss it. That's quite special. Right. Just about down there. Oh, Mrs. Bassett, he's in Parkland, and that's the Nen Valley down below there. Lean, if you wish. Yes. So yeah, we're relatively. You were saying earlier that we're actually low down. We're actually quite high up here relative to the valley. And it goes down there. But you can look right across. You can see better from upstairs. You'll get another view there. This is the famous guest bedroom. That's right. The correct orientation. The pair of beds would have run out from this wall. The heads would be here. A pair of beds running out here. And as the picture shows, this is the Hunterian recreation, of course. It's not the room, but it shows you the colour. This is the room here. I'm sorry, it's not a very good picture. You can see the door here, this door alongside, and the two beds, and some furniture in the corner over there. So when the Hunterian recreated it, they presumably didn't have the space to show the whole room. And anyway, the thing we were trying to recreate was the decor of the beds and the struts. So the canopy up this wall here, and across. This is Bassett Loke's study. Nothing special about this room at all, but just an observation really. He would be working in here probably in late morning or afternoon. But in the early morning, the maid would be able to come through here without disturbing him, because he would be in the room at the time. And she'd be able to make her way down the stairs without disturbing the family to the kitchen and do what she had to do and prepare the day for the family. And later in the day, when he was using the room, then she would be in the kitchen, so it wouldn't have interfered with the other. The other thing to draw attention to here is that the mark on the floor which shows the line of the old stair. Remember we started down at the bottom where it can turn? This is the arrival point here where I'm standing, not the stair coming up from below originally.
That made this room much smaller.
Well, that wall behind you would come this way, of course, so it just changed the shape. It didn't matter up here because, well, this is just a study.
I don't know if he was a tourist, but he was at the priory or the abbey.
Thomas à Becket's well commemorates the spot in 1164 where he refreshed himself during his flight from Northampton Castle, fleeing from King Henry II's demands.
Are there any ley lines? Have we been...
We've been walking through them all morning. There was loads in that round church, and there was a lot through the market square.
Yeah, but I remember when we were walking across here.
I didn't see any. Didn't see any at all.
All Saints Church in the centre of Northampton.
£2 penny to see this great chair! Great event, going up! £2 penny to see!
You'll tell us about the castle.
You've got to go right. You've got to go right and then... When King Tom was at the castle is just there. I'll take you to the side.
The chapel of the Reverend Philip Doddridge, hymn writer, was made from stone salvaged from Northampton Castle. The castle was built in 1086 by Earl St. Liz. It was almost completely destroyed on the orders of Charles II because of Northampton's support for the Roundhead cause, and then completely destroyed by the coming of the railway. The Eleanor Cross at Hardingstone, Northampton, is one of a series raised by Edward I to his wife, Queen Eleanor. Unusually for those times, she accompanied him to the Crusades and was said to have pulled an arrow from him after a battle. She then sucked the wound clean when it became infected. She had 21 children. They were devoted to each other, and she was travelling to Scotland to join him when she died. He led the funeral cortege from Lincolnshire to London, and wherever the procession stopped for the night, the King's masons subsequently built an ornate cross. This one was raised for the night spent at nearby Delaprey Abbey. A lay was found passing through the Eleanor Cross, going through Arbury Hill, Badby Church, a church in Nether Hayford. It skirts the south edge of Hunsbury Hill, goes through a church in the south of Northampton, the Eleanor Cross, Denton Church, crossroads and tracks north of Yardley Hastings. This view of the cross is along the lay. 2 lays were found going through this building on the site of Delaprey Abbey. One was one mentioned before, the one going through Holy Sepulchre Church and Hardingstone Church. The second one goes through All Saints Church, this Delaprey building, Quinton Church, a small church at Hanslope, Bradwell Church, Milton Keynes, and Loughton Church, Milton Keynes. A spectacular tree in the grounds of the abbey. A quite powerful lay was detected passing through this pond, and this feature, which seems to be made up of relics from the abbey. This lay doesn't go through the De la Prée building, but it meets one of its lays at Hardingstone Church. It goes through a church at Queen's Park, Northampton, a spire church south of the recreation ground, St Giles Church. It follows St Giles Terrace and Spring Gardens, goes through the Dow's De la Prée stretch, then Hardingstone Church, where it meets several other lays, a boundary spot mark and bridge south of Wootton, Milton Leys Farm near Castlethorpe, Cosgrove Church, a road track junction at Old Stratford, and a moat south of Wadden. Hunsbury Hillfort was also the site of an ironworks and horse tramway built in 1873, replaced by locomotive power in 1912. It's now a railway museum with several locomotives on view. There is no link to the main line, which plunges under the hill through a tunnel. As with many other hill forts, lays seem to skirt its edge rather than passing through its centre. We found 4. One was the one passing through the Eleanor Cross mentioned before. The second one goes through a cross tracks and boundary north of Upper Hayford, Kislingbury Church, a crossroads track roundabout, Hunsbury Hill Farm, skirts the northern edge of Hunsbury Hill, goes through Hardingstone Church, Hardingstone Lodge, and a coincident track near Hackledon and Lavendon Church. The third one goes through Spinney Hill, Holy Sepulchre Church, St Peter's Church, Northampton, skirts the western edge of Hunsbury Hill, goes through a pond at Gayton, where it meets another lay I may have mentioned before, Whitfield Church, fish pond and coincident track at Astwick Village, vanished, cross tracks and tumulus near Round Hill Farm, south of Crofton. The fourth goes through 2 crossroads north of Northampton, a coincident street, All Saints Church, skirts the eastern side of Hunsbury Hill, goes through the pond at Gayton, where it meets the other, Ablethorpe Church, a clump at Old Pan Farm, and a coincident track and cross tracks near Cofton. This maintenance vehicle, like me, was made in 1946.
This is quite a steep gradient.
Yeah.
They made a permanent place here, and there was a king, and they brought stability to the land, and it prospered, and agriculture throve. And the reason this happened was because this Danish king had the wit to do deals with the kings to the south and to the north. So he agreed that he wouldn't want any Dane girls if they'd leave him in his Northamptonshire area alone. And that lasted for quite some time, 200 or 300 years. And then they were driven out by somebody or other. And then they started unifying the whole country, and that was the end of that. Line of some worshipping, yeah.
It had various round huts with them.
Yeah, but
So, are we going to go to Rushton now? And what time do you want lunch?
what about Tesco's? You know?
Well, we're just going to go there for a cup of tea.
Yeah, but where is
Turn right. It's on one of those roundabouts that we sailed round twice. It's one of those huge super. I think you'll see it is on the roundabout.
There's a pub up here.
They
Well,
do
I'll stop
good
in the pub if you
value.
prefer, I don't mind.
They do
That might be
good.
better than pub.
Okay, will they? Never know. What we're going to do, when we see the tube, we're going to and take the A43, and then that will take us more or less direct.
You don't need any more plastic spoons, do you?
The tumulus at Boughton, on the Holy Sepulchre and All Saints lay. it was more or less
We're
north
just
and south,
beginning to
wasn't it?
form something now.
Yes. It was more or less north and south.
I think the road might be following it. It's not a strong view.
You can do better than that, you musical person. Alan, let's get rhythm. Let's get started wrong. This is the beginning.
I'm following Rick.
This is the beginning. There should be some sand along there.
Brixworth Saxon Church, originally a monastery, dates from about 750. How the church may have looked originally. It had an ambulatory in which pilgrims could enter to visit the relics of a saint. The arches were made of Roman bricks, set in place by Saxon workmen.
Actually, I like the word ambulatory.
Three walls with 3 windows and 3 gables to each, 3 stories topped by a 3-sided chimney. What is the reason for this triangular theme? The building is the brainchild of Sir Thomas Tresham, and every detail is symbolical of the Holy Trinity and the Mass. Tresham's religious beliefs, unpopular in Elizabethan England, earned him many years' imprisonment. The lodge, begun on his return home in 1593, was finished 4 years later.
Over the entrance door are the words Tres Testimonium Dance. There are 3 that bear witness, taken from the first epistle of St. John.
Well, what about the numbers underneath?
Got to that one. There's also a play on the name Tresham. Yeah. The unity of the 3 persons of the letters carried right round the building over each of the top windows, which when seen consecutively read, Mentes tuorum visita, visit the minds of thy people.
On the corner.
It's the second line of the Latin hymn to the Holy Ghost.
Oh, right, yes. Oh, the small letters above that. Yeah.
There are letters. Which side is this, please?
This is the Menses side.
Demonium.
Oh, well, I only
Dan.
thought about that.
Yeah, so it should have said it around that point, really, shouldn't it? It may not. And I'd like to have a look in the hall. I'd like to look at this place through that window that we can see there in the distance, and see exactly what view you'd get of this side facing it.
Yes, the light from those windows.
Into the window, used to sit up, and he looked through the square.
Right.
Okay? He looked through the air, over the water in the pond, and he looked through the square window onto the firewall.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, that's all of this over all the elements there.
Yeah.
And then if you go in there, you'll see the triangle continues.
Right.
Yeah. Now, the symmetry here is that you've got a cross on each of these walls and a cross in there surrounded by the three little circles.
Yeah.
This is the only one spoiling the symmetry. It's square cover.
Yeah.
So here's our Masonic friend sitting up there, looking through the square, projecting onto the firewall. And I want to know, what's the direction, what's beyond in the landscape?
Yes.
So go on that and see what it was that he was pointing at.
Yeah.
Which is probably something elemental.
So, ley line running through here.
Well, there's only going straight up.
But there might be a ley line from the house to here.
Yes, yeah.
And what's beyond it there? Look at it on the map.
Yeah, find out. So do you like the photo?
I'll go for any idea. I mean, the man was obviously very inventive and a fanatical Catholic, so how he interpreted it is...
So he's going to do what play all sorts of games.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What amazes me is that these Catholics got away with it for so long. Because they
Well,
were supposed to
if
be...
you go up to the next floor, the window above the one you were sitting in, it's a triangle.
Yeah.
But the trees are obscuring the view to the house, so we can't see what...
Well, we were looking at what the light is casting on the floor, and it would change during the day, so you could play all sorts of games.
Yeah. Of course, downstairs is not much light at all.
What did you say about this? That's Christian, isn't it?
That's it, yes. And there's our
There is in fact a good ley on the lodge hall alignment. Dowsing detected a ley passing through each corner and the centre of each side. The southeast ley, which is the one that goes through the hall, goes through Ringstead Church, a mean following track, Coincident Road, Walkton Church, Glendon Lodge, a staggered crossroads north of Kettering, the Triangular Lodge, then a building called the Hermitage, then Foxton Church and Saddington Church. The northern ley goes through Belton Church, the Triangular Lodge, 3 clumps north of Thorpe Malson, Thorpe Malston Church and a small church in Brofton. The northeast ley goes through Guilesborough Church, Mitley Spinney, Blue Covert, a boundary track junction, a spot mark of 145 feet, the Triangular Lodge, Great Oakley Church, a junction at Weldon, and a road track junction at Blackmore Thick Farm.